You know, when you wake up one morning and you find out that a very smart man has finally agreed with you and he doesn't even know it.
Life is a funny old broad. She keeps you guessing.
Alrighty, so maybe this you haven't heard this, but oh, Donald Trump, who is a very good businessman, he knows how to deal with the ups and the downs. He knows of what he speaks when it comes to business, finance, how it works, how money flows, construction stuff. I mean, you can't pull the wool over this guy's eye. Well, the other week, it's been a couple of weeks ago, sometime first part of September of 2025, he floated the idea that companies really don't need to provide quarterly basis earnings reports, that he thinks they should go to semi-annual. Now, when I said that he agreed with me, in a way he did kind of sort of, but not really, because I would prefer annual reports. Now, ask me if I'm a rich person and all this sort of thing. No, I'm not, you know, full disclosure. At the same time, I've I was in I serviced a lot of dealerships in the automotive industry, and the amount of sales managers and salespeople that I talked to all had the same thing. They had monthly earning reports, and they all wanted to be the salesman of the month. They had monthly goals to reach. Sell vehicles, sell them, sell them, sell them. And of course, uh, I think in that instance, it probably accomplished something. But I can tell you that when you're going after a sale only without thinking about the customer's needs, you might be pushing a customer into a wrong uh, financial situation, because you want to be the hero, you see, at the end of the month. And that's what they call them. They say you go literally overnight from last day of the month to the first day of the month. If you're salesman of the month this month, the next day, you're a zero. You go from hero to zero. You ask salespeople if they don't know that. I'm sure it's in other industries too, but they go from hero to zero with the turn of a month. It's the same way in large corporations, but they do it with the turn of the quarter of the year. The quarter. So every 3 months, hero to zero, hero to zero. Well, when you've got a small company, even a large company, and it's more important when it's a large company. Think of rowing a dinghy across a lake. You might have this kind of paddle. You might have the kind that you have to do both. If you need to turn in a dinghy, the turn is a heck of a lot easier than if you were in uh, the Queen Elizabeth or a Caribbean cruise ship or whatever. When they have to make turns, it's never on the spur of the moment. They may start on the spur of the moment and hope that they're going to miss something, but they look way in advance for issues, problems. They keep track of the weather reports. Is the engine working properly in case we have to reverse the engines, blah, blah, blah. They keep track of a hell of a lot more because there's many more lives at stake if they wait to the last second. Quarterly earnings is like giving a cruise liner um, 10 paddles. It is not working because there are much longer. If you've got a company that's really trying to accomplish a lot of things around the world, there are more moving pieces that must be managed. And if you go after a dollar, a number on a spreadsheet, and you miss it, and people get fired and blah, 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 you know what? You've taken your eye off the ball already. That's why I think an annual report would be great. Doesn't mean you can't keep track of where things are going, because obviously you want to keep track of what you're spending, where you're spending it. But to say that each quarter there must be profit starts making management make stupid decisions. Prove me wrong. You can't. You can't prove me wrong. There are expenses of a company that must be spread out over time. Yet the money has to go out now, but it'll be on the books little by little as it's being taken from different departments. So, Mr. Trump, the Donald, try pushing the annual report instead. I think it would work in the long run better. Now, yes, I know stockholders want their quarterly earnings, but you know what? Maybe their earnings would get better if they could just wait a year. And you know what? If you own a bunch of stocks, I think it's not going to hurt you to wait a year. You're not living off that money. You're banking it for your grandkids. So don't get me started on that. But I began thinking about all of this about 30 years ago, because as I started my business, which was providing graphics and other services to small businesses, I started learning how businesses with employees work. I've been an employee, but I got my check at the end of the week. Man came around with an envelope and handed it to me. And I would leave work, usually at 8 in the morning, and I would go to the bank and I would deposit it. Get a little bit of cash out and go home. Never thought about where they were getting the money. Not once. I knew what I was doing, but how did that fit into the whole of their business? No one ever told me. I didn't know. And then when I started my own business, that was just me. It was bringing in some extra money for the household, but my husband had the better paying job. He had the insurance. I was able to bring in some extra and make some other things happen. But I was still thinking about it. And then when I got my first corporate customer, it's when I really started looking at how things are going, how I had ideas. I had ideas to save money for what they would want me to do. I said, okay, look, if you want to do this product, onesie twosie, you're going to pay through the nose. But if you will let me manage the process, I can not only get you a higher quality of a thing, and then personalize those things one at a time at a much lower rate. I will charge you for the base. You can spread that out over all your dealerships as a one-time charge. And when I showed them all the numbers, yeah, that's right, I built my own spreadsheet. When I showed them all the numbers and how it would save them money, these guys understood the nature of looking forward as to how it would pay off. And first year alone, on one item, I saved this small regional dealership group $70,000 on one item. Everybody was happy about that. But they had to allow for a longer view of how you would get that. And when the dealership group was sold, it was sold to a New York company who they sent somebody down and saw me, a little Southern girl. And oh my gosh, I'm in a manager's meeting with this guy. He was insulting. He insisted I give him a price off the top of my head for a thing. I said, I can't do that. You haven't given me enough information. All the managers were just staring at me like they couldn't believe I was saying that to him, because what they were saying to him was, yes, sir. We'll do whatever you say, sir. And you know what? It didn't work out well. But they had to do it that way because that's how the new bosses wanted it. Fine. The old bosses wanted it another way. And I was doing that, saving the money. But this dingy, long story short, he wasn't a nice man. But I lost a lot of the business there because I absolutely refused to play his game. Call me stubborn, call me stupid. But anyway, I've learned a lot through the years about how these things work, and I've only seen a small bit of it. So I think a year, an annual financial report. Sure, keep track of stuff, but don't make the quarterly earnings the thing. Bad decisions start happening when you shorten the timeline when you're looking at a profit. Things have got too fancy in the world of business, and I think there's a lot of cheating going on because of it. And frankly, I don't want to, hear about it anymore. I want to know that they're using my money. If I own stocks, I want to make sure they're using my money properly. See how it works?
She treats you right.